7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's now time for the Pony Cake Sports Podcast with your hosts, Josh Stevens, Tim Thompson, and Tom Schultz. Woo!
Hey there, everybody. We are back again with another episode. And as always, I'm joined here with Tim and Tom. Guys, how's it going?
Nope. Pretty good, Jay. How are you?
Doing just fine.
What's that show called? Keeping It Cavallari?
Keeping It Cavallari. I don't know. It's called Josh Stevens Makes TV Appearances.
It's a great television show. I'm promoting that. They are a sponsor of the show. They are part of Pony Keg Nation. And Josh is pretty much related to Jay Cutler. Reminds me a lot of him.
Just like him.
It's fantastic.
Both very weird, quiet, kind of assholes. I love it.
Well, today we are bringing you some of our sleepers that we have for later on in drafts. And Tim, I think you brought this up. What is the best way to describe this episode?
Best way to describe this episode is anyone who that we believe will outperform their ADP. So, there was some confusion last year. Josh made an ass of himself. He was picking like Antonio Brown as a sleeper.
I don't know about that.
Ezekiel Elliott as a sleeper. We're like, hey, Josh, maybe stop being a dumbass, okay?
You sure that was Josh?
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm 100%. I actually went back and listened.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Let's go ahead and start it off. Tim, do you have a quarterback?
I do. I'll say one, even though I have a backup. If you don't mention him, I'll bring him up. But mine is Tyrod Taylor. ADP is the 14th round, 7th pick. Quarterback number 24. I think that it's outrageous, to be perfectly honest with you. Josh's power is flickering like crazy. Do we still... Josh, do we still have... are we still recording?
We're still good.
All right. That was...
Wow.
I mean...
It's heat flashes.
Yeah, pay your energy bill, please, sir. Nevertheless, yes. Tyrod Taylor. Cleveland Browns, they have a lot of weapons there. It's not only Jarvis Landry. It's not only Josh Gordon. They have their three running backs. They have Njoku there. They have a lot of talent in Cleveland now, and I just don't see Tyrod Taylor after what he was able to do with the Bills with no talent at all around him. Oh, there goes the power again. Oh, my God, what is happening here?
It's crazy.
I'm sucking the energy out of Josh's house. But you look at some of the people that are in front of Tyrod Taylor, the Case Keenums, the Mitchell Trubisky's, the Alex Smiths, even the Marcus Mariota, Patrick Mahomes. I think he's going to be better than all of those people. I think he's going to be much closer to that 14 to 17 range. So if you're a QB streamer, if you have like a Phillip Rivers and you want to have some sort of backup that you can get very late, Tyrod Taylor is one of those guys that I think is 100% going to outperform his ADP.
Tim, I like where your head's at with this pick. The only issue I have with Tyrod Taylor is Hugh Jackson. I really don't trust a thing that he says. Last year he said he was going to be relying on Tim's quarterback one last year, DeShone Kizer, from the great Notre Dame University, to be his guy the whole year. Did that happen? No, it didn't. Right now he is saying Tyrod's the number one guy, that he's going to be the quarterback in Cleveland. But come week 4 or week 5, let's say they're 0-3, 0-4, would you be surprised if Baker Mayfield steps out and is the starting quarterback for this football team?
If they're
I wouldn't
0-3,
be.
0-4, Hugh Jackson's no longer the coach of the Cleveland Browns. Fact.
That's a possibility, but along those same lines, do you still think Tyrod Taylor would be the starting quarterback?
Yeah. Baker's too busy grabbing his junk with a skull in his mouth, trying to run from the cops like freaking Wile E. Coyote in the freaking Acme tunes.
I don't mind Tyrod Taylor, but again, to Tom's point, there could always be a quarterback change there. But I think he will definitely outperform the 14th round ADP that is placed on him right now. My quarterback is a quarterback that finished 4th overall in quarterback scoring. Actually, probably could have finished as QB number 2 if he played week 17, and that is Alex Smith. Alex Smith right now is going as quarterback 19. Again, this is the quarterback that finished number 4 last year. 12th round, 10th pick in the 12th round. Yes, I know he is on a new team. He's on the Washington Redskins. But the Washington Redskins have a pretty decent team. Plus, if you look at the quarterback that just left the Washington Redskins was Kirk Cousins, and he finished quarterback number 6. I don't think there's any reason why Alex Smith should be drafted as late as he is right now. I think that ADP is a slap in the face, and he is going to outperform it by a lot.
Josh, I like it. Alex Smith is the Rodney Dangerfield of the NFL. He gets no respect. Constantly just looked over, passed over, and he's kind of just Mr. Consistent. He's nothing sexy. He's the plain Jane, and he just goes out there, keeps things safe, doesn't turn the ball over, and does the best thing for his offense and his team. I agree completely. Being the 19th overall quarterback is a joke. I don't think he's going to be a top 10 like you do, but I definitely think he'll be, between that 10-12 area.
I did have someone on Sleeper about asking questions about what 2 quarterbacks would you take late in drafts if they're not going to take a quarterback early. And my answer was take Phillip Rivers and take Alex Smith. I think that pairing of quarterbacks right there, 2 different bye weeks as well. I think that pairing right there, an offense that is going to be running a lot of 3 wide receiver sets for the Chargers offense with Phillip Rivers makes tons of sense. And then Alex Smith going to Washington, I just like that play as well.
So far, both of you have picked pretty good quarterbacks. I like them both. Both are guys who've been reliable in the NFL. Both of them, or neither of them, really turn the football over, and that's some more added value right there. I'm going to go with a guy. It's year 2 for this guy. The great Mitch Trubisky for the Chicago Bears.
That was my other QB.
Look, over the past few years, you got to look at all these sophomore quarterbacks and how they perform. First-round sophomore quarterbacks. Look at Jared Goff. He had a fantastic sophomore year. Carson Wentz, fantastic sophomore year. It just keeps happening, especially when these teams surround that quarterback with good offensive weapons. They put a good offensive-minded head coach around him as well, and that's what the Bears have done. They've added talent around that offense. It's nothing like last year. Last year it was hard to watch, even for a guy who roots against the Bears. When they were letting him throw 8 or 9 times a game, it was pretty ugly. But I am a fan of that offensive line. I'm a fan of all the weapons they've added with the Trey Burton. They got AR-15. Absolutely love Miller, the draft pick. I think the arrow's pointed up for Mitch Trubisky. I think he's got a legit chance to finish as a borderline QB1 this year.
Hey, I agree with you. He was my other quarterback that I had listed. Like you said, hey, if Jared, I can't palm a Nerf football, Goff is able to go out there and do what he did last year. No reason Mitchie T can't do the same thing.
Moving on to running backs, what do you have, Tim?
I will. I got 2 guys that I really want to name, but I'll leave Tom's guy alone. Well, I'm gonna wait. I'll name one.
Why don't you name
now.
one? Tom will name one. I'll name one, and we'll keep going in a circle.
All right, thanks for the update there, Chief.
Or a
I'm going to go with Kerryon Johnson, running back for the Detroit Lions, rookie running back for that matter. ADP right now is 7.02. I don't think he's going to perform much higher than that. I think it might be close, but I don't think in most drafts you're going to see him going that early, in all honesty. I think his number will continue to fall as things go. Listen, running back heavy, especially with a flex, I get it, but he's the 32nd ranked running back, which is, I think, the number that you need to focus on. He's better than that, especially being in Detroit. Listen, LeGarrette Blount is at the end of his career. I don't think that he has much value there outside of a couple of red zone touchdowns. The big X factor here is, can Kerryon Johnson stay healthy? If he can stay healthy, the Detroit Lions got a steal. He's a big, bruising back. He's got speed. He's got a great cut to him. And pairing him with Matthew Stafford could be phenomenal. It could be exactly what the Lions need to stay in a very suddenly deep NFC North. I think that the Lions are finally going to say, hey, we've had the years of this kind of flex running back, that flex running back, and they're going to focus on making Kerryon Johnson the guy. So I look for Kerryon Johnson to be a borderline top 20 running back this year.
I really like that call, Tim. And one thing that is kind of underrated is what that Detroit Lions football team has done to that offensive line. Invested another high draft pick, that's 2 of the last 3 years. Invested a first-round pick on an offensive lineman. They've got their stud left tackle of the future. They've got Frank Ragnow in. Probably will be playing guard for them because Graham Glasnow should be their starting center. But they paid Ricky Wagner. That offensive line is pretty good right now. If those guys can stay healthy, they have the realistic opportunity to be a top 10 offensive line in the NFL, and they haven't had that. And Matt Patricia, it'll be interesting how that team is ran this year. They kept their offensive coordinator, and one of his main goals as offensive coordinator has been to run the football. They haven't been able to do that. Let's see if they can get to that level, but I absolutely love Kerryon Johnson this year.
I'm not in love with it. I think there's just there's a lot of people there.
Dump on that.
You have Theo Riddick. You have LeGarrette Blount, like you said. Amir Abdullah's still there. He hasn't been cut or traded yet. I think he'll perform just exactly where he's at.
The big question to me is, I don't think there's any way that he performs where he's at. The big question to me is, does he go out there and be as successful as he can be, or does he go out there and allow himself to fall into the Samaje Perine of last year type role, and Chris Thompson just takes over and does what he does. Fat Rob does what he does. He might fall into the 1 of 3 guys similar to Perine. Perine was highly touted last year, or he can come out there and he can take over that role and be a dominant force for the Lions.
Tom, your running back?
My running back, he's going off the board as the 40th ranked running back in PPR leagues. And he also finished running back 11 last year in PPR leagues. Duke Johnson. Look, the Cleveland Browns, I completely understand that backfield. It's completely packed right now. They signed Carlos Hyde to a pretty big contract in the offseason. Next year they can get out of it with very minimal cap issues. They also drafted Nick Chubb early in the second round. So I think those 2 guys are going to be the bruisers, the early down work, the goal line recipients in that offense. But Duke Johnson's pretty much always been that scat back. When this team is down in football games, he is on the football field. If you compare his numbers with Christian McCaffrey's numbers, almost identical. PPR leagues last year, Christian McCaffrey finished 10th, Duke Johnson 11th, and there's a 6th round difference in their draft location. It's absolutely insane. I could see Johnson's receptions going down a little bit, but I still think he's a lock for over 60 receptions this year. Over 500 yards receiving, and I think he's going to outproduce that 40th ranked running back spot right now.
Yeah, I had Duke Johnson on my list as well, and bringing up the comparison to Christian McCaffrey, numbers-wise being so similar, finishing as running back number 11 last year is pretty crazy to think about. Yep. You don't think Duke Johnson, running back 11, as a running back 1. It's absolutely nuts. And you're getting him that late. What would you say, the 8th round, 9th round? 8th round pick, number 9. That's tremendous value, and if you're getting him that late, fantastic, because he's going to finish a lot higher than that.
Yeah, I love this pick as well. Duke Johnson, I don't think gets enough credit. He's the same type of player and gets the opposite. Doesn't get nearly as much credit as Chris Thompson. What he's done in 3 years in Cleveland has been phenomenal. Outside of that, he just signed it's still a rumor right now. I don't think the actual numbers are out there, but they're saying that he's just signed a 3-year deal. So Cleveland is, again, just trying to keep as many weapons as possible on that team. They essentially said, hey, if the Carlos Hyde thing doesn't work out, then Duke Johnson is our guy. If it does work out, then we'll figure it out from there, which is exactly what you want from a football team that has won 1 game in 2 seasons.
Yep.
To have as many weapons as possible. You would rather have the problem of, what are we going to do with all these people, than, hey, who are we going to put in at running back today? Props to the Browns for doing this, in all honesty. I like what they're doing. They're investing in their offense. They're investing in athletic, talented players. It's refreshing. Once they get Hugh Jackson out of there, I truly think that they will have a real shot of being a playoff team.
My first running back is going to be the 56th ranked running back right now, or 56th running back coming off the board. 13th round, Chris Ivory, Buffalo Bills. And this is all pretty much stemming from the fact that Shady McCoy may or may not have done what he did. And if he did, Chris Ivory is now the guy. And if you get him in the 13th round, chances are, if it is all found out that Shady McCoy did do that, his ADP will skyrocket.
Yep.
But if it is still sitting there and the everything is still lingering during draft time, I would still put a flyer in on Chris Ivory regardless, and just, I don't want to say hope and pray that Shady gets suspended because nobody wants to see that, but there's a chance that it could happen.
Listen, even if he didn't do it, he's going to outperform. Chris Ivory's going to outperform his ADP because this is the NFL, buddy. This is guilty until proven innocent. What's that? Shady McCoy? You aren't clairvoyant? You're not Miss Cleo? You didn't know some crazy bitch was going to accuse you of beating her ass and post pictures all over Instagram? Boom! Suspended 2 games. If he did it, then screw him. Chris Ivory is going to be way better. But regardless, the NFL is, well, you are bringing negativity towards our great name, sir. Suspension for you. Chris Ivory's going to get some starts. And on top of that, Shady McCoy's 86 years old. You don't know what's going to happen. The Bills suck. Their offensive line is garbage. They, I believe, are going to have Nathan Peterman as their quarterback if it's not Josh Allen. There's some scary times. They got some guy who tried to freaking kick through a glass window and jump out butt-ass naked. I don't know what's going on in Buffalo. People are still getting powerbombed through tables. Their buttholes are getting fingered. They're getting lit on fire. There's a lot of crazy things going on in Buffalo. Chris Ivory will outperform his ADP. Josh, good pick.
I got nothing. Tim, you go.
You got another running back or no?
I will say another one, and I think Tom will agree with this. I'll probably mispronounce his name, so my apologies. It's not intentional, but Nyheim Hines.
Damn it.
That's who you're going to go with next. Tom and I last year both loved Marlon Mack so much. Let's face facts here. He underperformed. He had some. He didn't have a ton of opportunity, but in the opportunity that he had, he didn't run away with it. He didn't take the reins and say, "I'm your guy," which led to the Indianapolis Colts taking Hines, ADP 10th round, 6th overall pick. Again, another thing. I think that's probably a bit high. Don't think Hines should be going that early, but he's the 45th overall running back. I am 100% okay with taking the number 45 overall running back in Hines and saying, let's see what happens. You don't know. Luck comes back with his robotic arm, and maybe he falls in love with Hines, and he just ends up being the guy. Hines showed at NC State. Right?
Yep.
Yeah, NC State, that he's very durable. He's a very talented guy, versatile back. I am more than willing to throw a dart at the wall with Hines being my 4th, 5th running back. Maybe you get lucky.
We saw last year with Tariq Cohen. He came in, was kind of that change of pace back in Chicago, and he was a top 30 PPR running back. That's how I view Nyheim Hines right now, and he's a running back. He is smaller in size, but he's got that solid BMI. He's not super tiny like
BMI.
Tariq Cohen.
Okay.
He's a former receiver at NC State, got converted to running back, and I really like him in the offense for the Indianapolis Colts. They are going to be running a running back by committee. Frank Reich has been openly honest about that. He came over from Philly. That's exactly what they ran there last season. I do think Marlon Mack should be the favorite to get a lot of the touches.
For sure.
But Hines on third down, early down work, getting a lot of receptions. I could see him getting over 50 receptions this year. He'll be a top 40 running back for me this year.
If I'm him, I'm trying to blow up, get sponsored by ketchup. That's what I'm trying to do. You tell me you wouldn't try to do that with that last name? Come on. You're not having a Heinz charity event with ketchup? Damn right. What day is it? July 17th. It's gonna happen. Watch it. Watch it happen. He's gonna have a sponsorship by Heinz ketchup.
Well, for his sake, I would hope so. He makes some money.
Good money right there.
You got another running back, Tom?
That's all I got.
I have a third. Why didn't you ask me? I have another one.
All right. What's your third?
You don't have a second?
The The only one that would kind of interest me is just because he's undrafted right now is Frank Gore. I know he's 35 years old. I know he's old as dirt. I know he's been in the league forever. But I'm just not a firm believer in Kenyon Drake. I know they got Ballage there as well, but I just think bringing in Frank Gore kind of says something. And I think as being undrafted right now, I think he will definitely outperform that, obviously. But I think it's a late sleeper option if you're looking to handcuff Kenyon Drake.
I almost picked Ballage, as much as you know that I love Kenyon Drake. I almost took Ballage over Gore. I think bringing in Gore is just the Dolphins saying we're trying to fire Adam Gase for no reason. My third one that's out there, and not because again, I don't trust. Listen, I love FantasyFootballCalculator.com, but the ADP version, this guy's the 26th overall running back, Lamar Miller. If they have their offense running and going, he's not the 26th. This is what I was saying where I don't trust it, where you guys were, we're going off ADP when we need our keep cut trade. Guys in front of Lamar Miller: Mark Ingram, Royce Freeman, Sony Michel, Jay Ajayi, Alex Collins, Rashad Penny. Not saying some of those guys won't be, but some of those guys definitely won't be in front of Lamar Miller if the Houston Texans are clicking on all cylinders next year.
I think all of them will, but Kenyon Drake.
Jay Ajayi will not. No way.
Last year, when Jay Ajayi went to the Eagles, like his numbers are kind of skewed. But with the Eagles, 5.9 yards per carry. Yeah. He was used on a limited amount of snaps. That offensive line is fantastic. Quit hating on my boy Jay Ajayi.
When you get 12 carries, it's good to have a great
10
average.
to 15.
It's good to have a great average.
Still.
Listen, when I was in high school and I got put into special class and I only had to take like 3 tests and they were 2 questions each, my average went way up. Doesn't mean I was good at school.
Oh, God.
Let's go ahead and move on to wide receiver. Tom, what do you have for wide receiver?
My first guy, he's wide receiver 51 right now.
Ooh, I like it.
Kenny Stills, 1107, being drafted in the 11th round, 7th pick overall. Last season, though, he saw 105 targets. That was second most on the Dolphins last season's. And Dolphins right now, they lost Jarvis Landry, Julius Thomas. That's over 220 targets lost from last season. Someone's going to have to be catching those footballs. Right now, I think Kenny Stills is the most talented wide receiver on this roster. I think he's the most versatile receiver on this roster. I think he can line up outside, inside. I think he's going to be the clear-cut number 1 guy in this team. And he's had back-to-back years being ranked inside the top 32, and people are drafting him as wide receiver 51. It's absolutely criminal.
Yeah, they added Danny Amendola, I believe 2 tight ends. They still have Devontae Parker, but Kenny Stills was on my list as well. Yeah. I think Kenny Stills makes so much sense where he's getting drafted at. I definitely think he's going to outperform that.
I like it. I wouldn't say I'm in love with it. I agree with you. He'll outperform his ADP, but I don't think it's going to be by much. In all honesty, I think he's going to be, maybe mid 40s and kind of settle in there.
Why do you think that though? Look,
you got to be thinking about this too. Kenny Stills, you're drafting pretty much as a wide receiver 3 at that spot. If not a flex.
My thought process here is, I don't think the Dolphins know what they're doing. I don't think they know where they're going. I know that this normally leads to, hey, blowouts. You're going to have a quarterback, just whipping the ball around. I don't think Ryan Tannehill is going to play the whole season. I don't think they're going to have.
He played all last year, and he was a top 30 receiver.
But they don't have Jay Cutler was out there whipping the ball around last year.
Jay Cutler was terrible.
Yeah, I know, but that's my point. I don't. Who's their backup this year? I honestly don't know. Who's the Dolphins' backup?
Probably former Bears quarterback David Fales, I think.
It might be right. I'll look that up while we're talking. My point is, I don't think the Dolphins have any sort of identity. So who they're going to have, or relying on any of their players, I get that it's a sleeper. I just don't want to do it. I don't think the head coach and the offensive coordinator, Adam Gase, I don't think he's going to be there the whole year because I think they're going to be that bad. Backup quarterback right now is Brock Osweiler.
Oh yeah, that's right. Who's the third?
That's perfect for Kenny Stills.
David Fales is the third. Right.
That is perfect for Kenny Stills.
Exactly. I just don't. Even if he's the number 1, I just don't see it. The same reason why Kenyon Drake. I love Kenyon Drake. I love him, but I'm not drafting him ever because the Dolphins are just such a freaking abortion right now.
My wide receiver is actually one spot in front of Kenny Stills. Number 50, going in the 11th round, Mike Williams, wide receiver, Chargers.
Love it.
We've talked about earlier with the quarterbacks, Phillip Rivers and the Chargers are going to be going to a lot of 3 wide receiver sets now that Hunter Henry is out with a torn ACL, unfortunately. You can only hand the ball off so much to Mr. Melvin Gordon, and Mike Williams, I think, is going to be a step up above Mr. Terrell Williams, and there's a reason why they drafted.
Tyrell.
There's a reason why they drafted Mike Williams to partner up with Keenan Allen.
So it's funny.
Tyrell.
That's his name. It's not Terrell. It's Tyrell. When doing this, I almost picked Mike Williams. It was one of those situations where I saw his name and I go, Mike Williams. Like I was thinking of the old USC wide receiver. I'm like, Mike Williams. I was. Yeah, it was Detroit. I'm like, what the hell? And then I was like, oh, I forgot. He just didn't play last year. And I almost went with him as well. I like it a lot, Josh. I like it. I definitely think, listen, last year, people were drafting him incredibly high. I remember him going in the 4th round, 5th round last year.
Yeah, it was early.
People thinking that, Pip Rivers, same thought process as you right now. But apparently he's healthy, and getting him 6 rounds later, absolutely, why not? As a deep sleeper pick, absolutely. He's your 4th wide receiver. Sign me up.
And a big thing with Williams, you got to look what's happening at the tight end spot for the Chargers. Like Antonio Gates was let go. There's a chance he comes back, but he doesn't have much left in the tank. You got Hunter Henry got injured. He will be out for the whole season. They really don't have a solid tight end right now. Even if they're lining up Mike Williams in the slot, playing kind of that bigger slot wide receiver role, he's shown that ability to go up, get the football, and I think his touchdown numbers are going to be high this year. He's definitely one of those guys who's got a legit chance of scoring double-digit touchdowns this year that people aren't expecting.
Tell you right now, Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers, call the Chicago Bears and give up a 6th round pick for Deion Sims. They don't have any tight end. Deion Sims can
I'd rather
block.
have Virgil Green.
He's not. Deion Sims is better than Virgil Green.
It's false.
He's better than Virgil Green.
Virgil Green is not good in Madden.
For the style, for the offense that the Chargers run, for protecting Pip Rivers, Deion Sims can block. He's not a great pass
That's what
catcher.
Virgil Green does too.
Not as well as Deion Sims, and Deion Sims can catch better than Virgil Green.
I'm going to check Madden tonight and see who has a better pass.
I'm excited that I finally will get to own Madden this year for the first time in 5 years.
Who's your receiver, Tim?
My wide receiver,
Antonio Brown.
Tom went 51, Josh went 50, dropped me back 4 places. Martavis Bryant.
I hate it.
Oakland Raiders, ADP 12.03, 54th ranked wide receiver. Listen, the Oakland Raiders have a good depth chart. They have a good wide receiver core. Jordy Nelson, they brought in Amari Cooper. It has been their guy. Martavis Bryant has succeeded with the Pittsburgh Steelers not being the guy. The Raiders did not spend the capital that they did just for shits and giggles, if you would. They brought him in for a reason. I don't like the Raiders' playoff chances. I don't know what the Raiders are going to do. I think that John Gruden is an absolute crazy man. I don't think he's necessarily going to be successful. But I do believe that the Raiders are going to be down a lot this year. And John Gruden is good at drawing up plays for his quarterback to chuck the ball around. He made Brad frickin' Johnson a good quarterback. And then when he was in Oakland, he made... who's that old guy that won the Super Bowl?
Rich Gannon.
Thank you, Rich Gannon, a Pro Bowl quarterback. He can do it. Derek Carr could see an increase in production this year. He should. And I like what Martavis Bryant brings to the table. If he can stay out of trouble, he's definitely going to outperform his ADP.
I don't know. I just think that there's too many mouths to feed in that offensive passing scheme. Plus, you got to look at Gruden. Gruden likes to run the ball a lot as well. They have Marshawn Lynch there, and as well as Doug Martin, which I think would be a sneaky play this year, or a sneaky draft pick as well, late in drafts. But I think that you have Jordy Nelson. I think they still have Seth Roberts that they signed to a deal in the offseason. They have Amari Cooper. Again, they're not going to give up on him.
Jared Cook led them in
Right,
Yeah,
receiving last year.
I just think I'd rather have Paul Richardson that I would get in the 14th round for the Washington Redskins rather than somebody like that.
I'm saying you have Rashard Matthews. You know my boy, but Rashard Matthews. Cameron Meredith coming off of injury in New Orleans, new team. The freaking Marquise Lee with Blake Bortles throwing to him. Nelson Aguilar in Philadelphia, who did much, much better last year, but still, you don't really know what you're getting there. Marquise Goodwin in San Francisco. I would rather have Martavis Bryant than those guys, personally.
You know who I would rather have over Martavis Bryant? Chris Godwin of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Undrafted right now, not showing up on this ADP list. But during the second half of the season last year for the Bucs, though, he was one of the most reliable wide receivers for the Buccaneers. He had a sneaky 500-yard-plus season last year. Not many people realize that he had that type of production and kind of turned it on late in the season. And to say he was their most reliable and consistent guy in the second half of the season when there's receivers like Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson on that roster, I think that's quite impressive. I absolutely love Chris Godwin this season. I think he's going to come on strong early in the year, or with the schedule that they have. I think they're going to be down early in their first 3 games. They're probably going to be getting blown out because it's a tough-ass schedule with Ryan Fitzmagic as your quarterback. Chris Godwin's going to light it up early in this year. I absolutely love him this year. I think he's going to put his foot in the ground and become the number 2 wide receiver for this Buccaneers team.
As you know, I love Chris Godwin, and I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, it's kind of a boom or bust in my opinion. With Tampa Bay, I mean, the same negatives that you had for Martavis Bryant, Chris Godwin's in a situation where there's a lot of mouths to feed there as well.
Yeah,
Whoever's
100%.
at running back, and like you said, there's 2 tight ends who both are going to take up red zone touches. The big-bodied wide receiver, a longtime veteran speedster there. So he's potentially the 4th or 5th option. So I don't hate it, but again, you never know.
Last guy I'm taking a real hard look at, and I'm like totally undecided if it's somebody I'd really take a leap of faith with is Jordan Matthews. Now that he's on the Patriots,
Love it.
You got to remember when this kid came in as a rookie for the Philadelphia Eagles, he was a monster, and then he was on Buffalo last year. Didn't do much after he was traded, but now he landed with the Patriots. The Patriots again have Julian Edelman that is on a 4-game suspension that was just upheld. Danny Amendola is not there anymore. Who else do they have? Kenny Britt and
Malcolm Mitchell.
Malcolm Mitchell and Philip Dorsett. And everything that I've heard and read about Malcolm Mitchell is that he's just not who they thought he was.
Can't stay healthy.
Yeah, he can't stay healthy. So I'm very interested to see Jordan Matthews here with the Patriots. I don't know if I'm willing to take a super late flyer like that, like as the 59th wide receiver again. Paul Richardson's going off at the 61st. I'd rather have Paul Richardson than I would rather have Jordan Matthews. But Jordan Matthews is a name to still keep an eye out later in drafts.
It's definitely a name to keep an eye out for, but he's kind of grouped in my opinion. Got a couple guys there with them. Chris Hogan, another guy in New England, and Cordell Patterson, who is they're going to have the same opportunity.
Tip, you are still...
I'm not saying he's good. My point is they're going to have the same opportunity as Jordan Matthews. Not only that, Braxton Berrios was drafted by the Patriots this year. He'll at least get a look. Malcolm Mitchell got his look. Very similar in that sense. I'm not campaigning for Cordell Patterson this year.
That's one of your sleepers last year.
Yeah, he had a couple touchdowns last year.
Ted Ginn was as well. That was a good call.
Yeah, Ted Ginn was as well. My point was, I feel like the Patriots kind of just are clumping in the Cordell Pattersons and Jordan Matthews of the world and saying, hey, let's see if we can strike while the iron's hot.
Moving on to tight end. What do you guys
Whoa!
Oh, you still got
You
one
both
more?
got 2?
Sorry.
I did get 2.
I'm just doing a quick tie here. It was hard for me not to go with all rookies all the time for these sleeper picks, but my tie is Anthony Miller and Christian Kirk. I feel like both have equal opportunity They're back to back. Anthony Miller is the 65. Kirk is 66. 1404 and 1406. Listen, if Miller and if Nagy's able to get the Bears offense running like it should be, Miller's got an opportunity to be a big part of that. And Christian Kirk, as long as he stops throwing rocks at cars, even though he was acquitted of that, once Rich Boy McGee from UCLA, chosen Josh Rosen comes in, Christian Kirk could be a big part of that offense as well. So look out for both of them. Late picks, 14th round, sign me up, absolutely.
Yeah, I love both of those guys in best ball leagues. Anthony Miller is a guy we'll be targeting in every type of draft format. Absolutely love him. Almost unguardable in college. I think he's going to fit that offense extremely well. And when you got receivers like that who can run extremely crisp, extremely good routes with good stems, they get open. That's what happens. He's not the greatest athlete in the world, but he's got a little Antonio Brown in him, and the Bears absolutely love him. They gave up a lot, gave up a future second-round pick, plus a draft pick in this year's draft to move up to get him. So you have to realize that they are a big fan of him and that they're planning on using him this year.
A lot of capital there.
Yep.
Moving on to tight end.
I'll start because mine's obvious. If you listen to the show,
Travis Kelce.
I said it when we were talking about tight ends all together. I don't understand how this guy's not on the list, in all honesty. And his counterpart is Cameron Brate. I don't understand how Cameron Brate is not on the top 15 list. A fantastic year last year. I get O.J. Howard was brought in. The talk of the town last year. Even here on this podcast, Josh was literally, he could not get his hands firmer around O.J. Howard's wang to stroke him and how great of a player he's going to be. And he very well may be, but the fact remains, Cameron Brate has been a huge part of the Buccaneers organization. He's been consistent, and all he does is go out there and perform. You don't hear anything about him ever, no matter who the quarterback is, no matter what else is going on, no matter what Mike Evans is doing, Deshaun Jackson, Doug Martin before, now it's going to be Rojo. Doesn't matter. Cameron Brate just goes out there and performs. The fact that he's not on the top 15 is atrocious, in my opinion. He should be on the top 15. He is going to continue to have himself a year. He's an Illinois native, guys. Illinois native from Naperville. Sign me up, Cameron Brate. Definitely outperform his non-existent ADP.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. He's going undrafted right now on average. Top 10 PPR tight end last year. It just sucks that him and O.J. Howard are splitting time in Tampa Bay. I think it kind of limits both of them dramatically.
Tell the Chargers to call the Bucks.
Yeah, that would be perfect. I know Brate's, I think he's signed till like 2022 or 2023.
Yeah,
so
he just signed his new deal.
Yeah.
That's the other part that makes me think the Bucks are invested. They just signed this offseason.
Which I like teams that are running two tight end sets. Gives them more versatility, able to run the football, especially when you got a tight end like O.J. Howard in there who's extremely good at blocking and receiving. Brate's more of that receiving threat, but it kind of limits their upside. But he should be getting drafted right now. There's no mistake about that. Tight end right now is kind of top heavy. Once you get after the top 7 or 8, it's you're just rolling the dice. And I think Brate's a guy who has shown that he has the ability to be a top 10 option.
Yeah, I agree. As much as I like O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate has been the go-to guy for Jameis Winston, so I'm not going to complain one bit about that.
Similar with Tim's selection, I'm going to go with a guy who's kind of split in time. Mr. Eric Ebron going to Indianapolis. Jack Doyle last year had a top 10 tight end finish in Indy last year without an Andrew Luck. Ebron finished just outside the top 12. He was tight end 13, but kind of turned it on the last 8 or 9 games of the season. He's still young. He's only 25, I believe. Might be 26 during the season. But he was an early first-round pick. And we've seen that Andrew Luck, when he's at full health, that he is able to make two tight ends successful and reliable in fantasy football. You got to look at Colby Fleener and Dwayne Allen from a few years back. Got both of those guys paid. And now both of them are doing nothing once they got out of Indy. Frank Reich, coming from Philadelphia, that football team liked to use two tight end sets, use both Trey Burton and Zach Ertz quite a bit inside the red zone as well. I think Doyle and Ebron will both be reliable in fantasy football. I think both of them have a chance to be top 12 options, and I think Ebron should be getting drafted right now.
It's a good pick, Tom.
Yeah, I like that one as well. Especially you look at Ebron, high draft pick. Jack Doyle, again, had a very good season last year. If Andrew Luck does come back 100% healthy and his robotic arm, there should be no reason why. Actually, both of those guys should be top 15 options.
Yeah. And what other receivers do they have besides Hilton? No one that's really well known. So there's a good chance that it's Hilton and then these two tight ends as their top 3 receivers next year.
Yeah, and Eugene is losing his steps.
My tight end is Ricky Seals-Jones from the Cardinals.
Saw that coming.
Going as the 16th tight end, 13th round. He's getting a lot of love right now. Actually, honestly, I could see his ADP keep pushing upwards. And if that is the case, I might tend to steer clear of it. But right now, late in the 13th round, I feel pretty comfortable with it. Again, you have a couple quarterbacks there in Sam Bradford, who likes to throw the ball to the tight end, likes to do a couple checkdowns. I don't know what quarterback we're going to get. I don't know what offense we're going to get. That's the tough part of it. So I'm very, very split on it. But if I'm looking at a tight end that could have a big year, Ricky Seals-Jones last year finishes tight end 45, but you got to remember he didn't play until week 11. And week 11, when he did play, he had 20 fantasy points, then 17, then 6, and then he tailed off at the end of the season because he did get hurt. But if he can put those performances together, he could be huge this year.
Yeah, I like the pick. You know, he was honestly, I won't forget when Ricky Seals-Jones came back, because I was watching Red Zone, and I believe him and it might have been Fitzmagic both blew up on the same day. And they were like, well, if you started Ryan Fitzpatrick and Ricky Seals-Jones today, you're having a great fantasy football day. He blew up, had some pretty great catches that day as well. I think it's more of might be a little bit more of a sexy name at this point for my liking. Not too sure how he's going to translate, especially with that offense. You don't know what's going on, and David Johnson being back changes the landscape there completely. So I won't be buying into it personally, but I don't hate the choice, Josh.
He's a guy I really like in best ball leagues. He's a former wide receiver. He's got that size, though, 6'5", close to 250 pounds. Jermaine Gresham is really his only competition, and he suffered a pretty bad injury last season. We'll see how long it takes him to get back. But Seals-Jones, he's kind of, it's that new mold of tight ends in the NFL right now. The former receivers just line up in the slot, let them be mismatches. Too big for the DBs, too fast for the linebackers. I think he's definitely has a chance to do some damage, and probably 90% of my best ball leagues I have him as my tight end 3.
Who is the Lions starting tight end right now? Do you guys know?
Is it Wilson?
It is. Luke Wilson.
Owen's brother?
No.
Oh. Josh gets so mad when I make those jokes. He gets so mad.
So what's going to happen with Eric Ebron's numbers? It's going to go to Kenny Galladay, in my eyes.
I see that as well. Anything else on the sleepers wise?
I'm a little bit disappointed in both of you.
Oh, jeez.
Neither of you said Adam Shaheen.
Yeah.
I do
Mark
believe that his numbers are going to rise a little bit. I think the style of offense.
What do you have, like 4 catches last year?
It may be
like 6 or.
Yeah, he had a couple. I think he had 2 touchdowns.
I hope those numbers go up.
The touchdowns were probably somebody fumbled it and you probably recovered it.
No, my point is,
12 catches.
I think bringing in Trey Burton, they're going to have 2 tight end stats.
12 catches,
two
3
tight end
touchdowns.
sets. Bringing in Trey Burton, they're going to try to implement him. They didn't invest that draft capital, like you guys say, for no reason. Last year was a learning year. D2 player, very green, very he honestly looked like an alien controlling a human body, like not comfortable in himself. Learning, growing. I'm interested to see what he can become, if anything, this year. That's all. I'm not saying he's gonna be great. I'm just saying He could be a deep sleeper, if you want to put it as a deep sleeper. He could be a deep sleeper. With the style of offense under Matt Nagy that the Chicago Bears are going to be running, he could. I would not be surprised at all if at the end of the year, Adam Shaheen had 5 touchdowns.
Adam Shaheen had less fantasy points than Nick O'Leary.
My boy, Nick O'Leary.
A better super deep sleeper is Steven Anderson from the Texans.
Texans, yeah.
Sounds like a kicker's name.
He will have a better year than Adam Shaheen.
I mean, I'm not going to bet, like, I have an Adam Shaheen bet out there. I feel like that would be detrimental to, well, just to anything.
Another late round guy like Ben Watson, back to the Saints. He's old as dirt.
Yeah.
He's like the Frank Gore of the tight end spot, but
And still 10 years younger than the Chargers, Antonio Gates.
But I could see him doing some damage and kind of being a productive finisher at the 10, 11, 12 spot at the tight end. I think he's going to surprise some people.
How about Jake Butt this year?
No.
Anything?
It's we'll
Kinda
see if he's
wait
even
and see.
starting.
Wait and see.
'Cause they got Hireman or Howerman, and they
Yeah,
got
he's
Fumagalli.
We'll
It's
see how
kind
much
of
he
been
plays. He's coming off
yeah.
an injury.
been drafting a lot of tight ends lately there.
Yeah, he's
It'd
coming
be
off. He's
interesting.
coming off the injury. He's known as a blocking tight end. I would not draft him ever.
I just wish Hunter Henry was playing.
Yeah, but he's dead.
All right, that's all we have for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Deep Sleepers that we do have at each position. Again, you guys can follow us on Twitter at PonyKeg Sports, at Pony_Keg_Tom,
Underscore.
and at Fight Talk Tim. You guys can always email us, ponykegsports@gmail.com. And until next time.
Peace.